Hello and welcome to the Bay Street Bistro in beautiful Port Orchard, Washington. I'm Mr. Haver and this is my associate, Mr. Heilman. Today is August 17th and we are here to celebrate the 78th birthday of Robert DeNiro with a Godfather themed in the mix.
Or as we like to call him, Bobby.
Bobby. Bobby to us and Bobby to you in the audience. So what do we got on the menu tonight?
Well, this is Godfather themed, right?
Right.
So the core to this is the Godfather Cocktail. And we're going to do 3 cocktails. Godfather was a trilogy, so we're going to do 3 cocktails. We're going to do 2 that are more commonly known and 1 that we've kind of created on our own here. So the first is the Godfather Cocktail. Oh, each of these have Amaretto in them. So there's a couple of rumors, and like anything with the mob, there's a lot of speculation, uncorroborated
Obviously.
stories behind these things.
All the eyewitnesses are dead.
Yeah, exactly, or missing. So the DiSorno company, which is a company that makes Amaretto, interesting tidbit, they make Amaretto, but they don't use almonds for it, as you would normally use when you're making Amaretto. There's some lawsuits and things like that, but they are the most popular Amaretto out there. My favorite is D'Amore, which is what we're using here, but and they do use almonds, by the way. So, but all these drinks are Amaretto based, and we'll start with the Godfather one. So, one rumor from the DiSorno company is that this was a favorite of Marlon Brando. Now, you've read Marlon Brando's autobiography.
I have.
Does he mention the Godfather cocktail in there at all?
He does not.
Exactly.
Again, unsubstantiated.
Yeah, for sure.
Could have been, may just not have made the book.
Another story is that a bartender in the 1950s, Donato Antone, invented this drink along with the Harvey Wallbanger, the White Russian, and about 2 or 3 other ones.
Busy guy.
Well, in theory, according to him at least, there's no proof that he's invented any of these. So it's kind of cool, like the mob and some of the romance about that. We'll let these stories.
There's some good myths swirling
kind of
about.
Go around. Yeah, exactly. But in the 1970s, a cocktail with the name Godfather, as you might imagine, gained a little bit of popularity.
Of course.
So as time went on, people got a little bored with it, started playing around with it. So then we created the Godmother, and then the Godson and Goddaughter. Now the Godfather is equal parts Scotch and equal parts Amaretto. Some recipes you might see call for a little more Scotch. I think that when you put a little more Scotch in there, it buries the Amaretto a little bit. So I use equal parts of Scotch and Amaretto. That's the first drink we're going to make. The second one is the Godmother, which just replaces the vodka with the Scotch with vodka. Which with that you can probably
use a
little more.
Busy night down here at the bistro, as you can tell. Make reservations now for the Sunday supper.
So you could probably use a little more vodka in that one if you want to make it a little stronger, because vodka is not going to hide the Amaretto quite so much.
A lot of Scotch-themed drinks here.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
But alcohol of Heilman Haver.
But I'll be honest with you, you're going to be at the bistro. This is a place where you want to drink, that you're going to sip. And these are all
exactly right.
Sipping drinks. So, a little Scotch.
I'm always fascinated by the combos that you come up with, uncover, discover, and how well they go together when they don't really sound like they would at first. I would never think to put Amaretto and Scotch together, but we've done that in other drinks as well, added things to Scotch or Scotch to things, and it's been delicious. Speaking of which,
here's your Godfather.
Salud. And you've done it again. Yeah. Delicious.
So it's Scotch, but you get that undertones of the nuttiness from the Amaretto, for sure.
Smoky and sweet. A cocktail fit for a dawn. Delicious.
Well, so how about the Don's wife or the Godmother?
Godmother.
So let's make the Godmother now, which is, like I said before, equal parts vodka and Amaretto. Though, again, you can increase the amount of vodka if that's your preference.
You bet.
All right, grab some more Amaretto. And this one you'll notice that it's, and with vodka, because vodka usually just up-proofs whatever you're drinking, right?
Oh,
So
okay. I like the
gonna-
simplicity of these.
you're going to notice the Amaretto more in this one.
All right. Yeah, definitely sweeter.
Yep.
Don't taste the vodka really at all.
No.
That's tasty. I think I prefer the Scotch though. The Amaretto
Yeah,
and the
I think
Scotch
so,
really
yeah.
balance each other out. They complement each other really well. You bet. Like I said, call now and get your reservations for this Sunday.
So when I was looking at these drinks, and I thought, I like a good complex layered drink. These are simple, 2 ingredients. What can I add that maybe gives it a little more complexity, a little more flavor? So
The man's an artist, people.
So I have some Italian liqueurs in my liquor cabinet, and one that jumped out at me is Fernet. Now, Fernet is an Amaro, and if you remember from our Roman holiday episode, we introduced Amaros, which are digestives made with, this is 27 herbs and spices.
Wow. The secret recipe.
Herbs and other ingredients. So what this is going to do is give it another layer. So we're going to do the Godfather, but add another equal part of Fernet to it. Now Fernet is one of those. It's an Italian liqueur that was created in, if I check my notes here, 1845, and it's the same recipe, handed down generation to generation as they made originally, which is kind of rare. You see a lot of these recipes. I think when we did the James Bond cocktail, the liquor in that was has been changed. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So let's do our.
And this will be the godson / goddaughter.
I'm sorry. The godson and goddaughter are the Godfather and Godmother, respectively, with cream.
That's right.
So this is kind of a new drink that we created. So a Godfather is good, but is he better with advice from his Consigliere?
Oh, undoubtedly.
So this.
What would the Godfather Trilogy have been? Or actually the first two without Robert Duvall.
Exactly. So what this is, this Godfather drink is getting advice from Fernet. So we're calling this the Consigliere.
All right. Our first signature cocktail.
Our first
Heilman
signature
Haver.
cocktail.
All right.
All right. So we put some Scotch. We hit our Amaretto.
Incidentally, the reason that Robert Duvall was not in the third movie was he wanted, I believe it was $5 million. Just a little too rich for the studios.
Yeah, and I guess it had been so long since the original trilogy.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Or the
Quite a
original
jump.
two.
Well, of course, we'll go upstairs to the VIP room and talk some trivia here in a few minutes. But yeah, 72, 74, and then 90. So quite a jump.
And we're adding a little more deeper color to this too.
Yeah, almost looks like a coffee liqueur. All right.
A little swirl.
Definite
Little
salute on this
swirl.
one.
All right. The Consigliere.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Got a really nice, almost a bite at the end.
Yeah, it's almost, I don't know if eucalyptus is one of the herbs in there. It's one of those closely guarded things, but it gives you that almost fresh, kind of herby, herbal.
And a nice fragrance too, which is all part of it. It's tasty, I like it.
I don't think it hides any of the other things either. You still feel the Scotch. You still get the Amaretto.
Yeah, that's delicious. Now, explain, the Consigliere is singular. Consigliere, plural, right?
Yeah, and I've been getting that mixed up for the last, how many years?
Since 1972.
Exactly.
Since the first one came out.
Yeah, so it's Consigliere is singular, Consigliere is plural.
See? Entertaining and educational.
All right.
Speaking of education, I head upstairs for some trivia.
Absolutely.
All right, cheers to Robert DeNiro and the Godfather Trilogy.
Salud.
Salud. And welcome back to In the Mix with Heilman and Haver, a very special episode here at the Bay Street Bistro celebrating the 78th birthday of Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro's first Oscar for Godfather II. And we are making some Godfather-themed cocktails down here tonight, and we're actually drinking one called The Godfather.
This is The Godfather, yep.
Remind us what's in this one, because we had a trio downstairs.
Right, so we had a trilogy. This is The Godfather, which is the basis for all the drinks we tried downstairs. This is equal parts Scotch and equal parts Amaretto.
Delicious. On the rocks.
On the rocks.
On the rocks.
Yeah, and
Salud.
you can do it neat. If you like to drink your Scotch neat, you probably like this neat. But I had it both ways, and I do usually like to drink my Scotch neat, but I prefer this on the rocks.
Yeah, I like Scotch cold. The stronger the alcohol, the colder I like it, and this is really delicious. The smokiness of the Scotch, I think, really balances out the, I don't know, nuttiness, I guess. And
It's nuttiness, a little sweetness, but it's
Yeah.
I mean, it's a liqueur. Liqueurs are generally sweet, and it's yeah. So I would say sweet and nutty is probably a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it counterbalances with the Scotch pretty nicely.
Yeah, I think really well. Make it at home or come down to the Bay Street Bistro here in beautiful downtown Port Orchard, Washington, and try it this Sunday. Today is the 17th of August, and like we said, Robert DeNiro's 78th birthday. Happy birthday, Bobby, as we like to call him here on the show.
That's right.
And we're talking about the Godfather Trilogy. 3 movies, 72, 74, and 1990.
Yeah, big
And,
gap in between.
Did you see any of these in the theater?
I saw none of them in the theater. I saw them probably on HBO or something. Probably not until the 80s.
You would need a bladder of steel to make it through these films in the theater.
I
Number
imagine.
1 was 2 hours and 55 minutes. Number 2, 3 hours and 22 minutes. And number 3, the shortest of the trilogy, 2 hours and 42 minutes. So
And I have to imagine there are probably director's cuts out there that.
I would assume so.
Yeah.
There's got to be. Obviously directed by Francis Ford Coppola, starring along with De Niro in number 2 as the young Don Vito Corleone. Not the Don yet, young Vito, fresh off the boat from Italy. Also Al Pacino, obviously, Marlon Brando, Robert Duvall, James Caan, Diane Keaton, Andy Garcia, John Cazale, and also famed acting teacher Lee Strasberg is in number 2. And Strasberg was ailing at the time, and so they just kind of wrote that into the script. But a lot of firsts for this movie. The screenplays were all written by Francis Ford Coppola and Mario Puzo, who wrote the book. I actually read the book about a year and a half ago. It really is a great read. And number 1 and 2 are really, number 1 and 2 films are really kind of a continuation of the first book. There's so much content they just couldn't get it in, even with almost 3 hours to work with each time.
Yeah, interesting though. So I remember when we talked to Jeremy Arnold about around the Oscar time.
Yeah.
About his top 10 Oscar Best Picture winners, and I think he mentioned both Godfather 1 and Godfather 2, and we talked there about which do you watch first, because this
Right.
is one of the few films that could be viewed in any order, because if you watch Godfather 1, Godfather 2 kind of gives you some extra backstory.
Right, it's
But it
both
could
a
also be-
prequel and a sequel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you could. I watched the second one first, so I had seen Godfather 2 before I saw Godfather 1.
Yeah, see, and I did it. I watched the movie. All right, I read the book, then watched 1 again. It's one of those films that you kind of, again, it's so long. Everybody's kind of seen parts, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody's familiar with the scene with Marlon Brando and the kitty cat. That was actually a cat that the team found wandering the studios, and they brought it in to kind of humanize Brando's character as the Don. And apparently Brando had to recut all of his lines because the cat at one point was purring so loudly. So the Brando had his way with animals, I guess. As far as Oscars go, like we said, this got Robert De Niro his first Oscar as young Vito Corleone for Godfather II. The first one, the original, 4 Oscars. Number 2, 6 Oscars. And number 3, a very distant number 3, 7 nominations, no Oscars.
Not surprising.
Not surprising. And really, the conversation about these movies really does center mostly, I think, around 1 and 2.
For sure.
There's always that argument. I think that was kind of the argument we had with Jeremy Arnold was, which one's better?
Yeah.
Between 1 and 2. A couple interesting tidbits about casting. Warren Beatty, Jack Nicholson, and Dustin Hoffman all auditioned for the first Godfather, and De Niro actually went out for the role of Sonny in the first film. Orson Welles, of all people, wanted to play Don Corleone. And even, this is how bad he wanted it. He offered to lose weight for the role. Didn't get it, but the screen test did surface, actually almost 40 years after the original film
Is this
debuted.
Is this wine, pitchman Orson
I
Welles?
think that was 80s, so this might be pre-wine pitchman Orson. But obviously, we talk about this stuff, and would have completely changed the film.
Absolutely.
You can't. I mean, Orson Welles would have done an amazing job, I'm sure, but this is so. Brando is so identified with this role, and again, later in his career.
And I knew Brando from these roles before I knew him from
anything else.
Anything else, really?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Brando, famous for his bulldog, his bulldog approach to the role, and he used cotton wool in his jowls and his cheeks for the audition, and then they actually billed him steel bar dentures for the film version.
Okay.
Interestingly, De Niro actually used kind of a dumbed down, smaller version of the same steel bars for Godfather II when he played the young Vito Corleone, and just to give that feeling of kind of cohesion with the original character. Coppola, again, casting is something we both enjoy discussing. Coppola made this trilogy a family affair. Talia Shire, Coppola's sister, is in all three films as Sister Connie. Sofia Coppola plays daughter Mary in Part 3, and is also the baby in the christening scene in number 1 during the bloodbath. Michael's having his daughter christened, and all the bloodshed's happening elsewhere. It's a really great scene. And Coppola's father was a piano player. He added his piano skills to the soundtrack.
Interesting.
So, kind of cool. Of course, we're here to talk about De Niro. 78th birthday today, August 17th. Happy birthday, Bobby. Coppola considered actually bringing Brando back as the young Vito Corleone. He was convinced that Brando could play the character at any age. But as he was working on the script, he remembered how well De Niro had auditioned for the movie, the first one, for Sonny, and cast him instead without actually offering the part to Brando at all. And there was a lot of debate over whether Robert De Niro should grow a mustache. Obviously, Brando had the mustache in number 1. Ended up kind of flipping a coin over it, went with the mustache. And he actually, when he returns to Sicily, he gained weight, and like we said before, he used the prosthetics.
And he had to learn Sicilian
He did.
for the film, right?
He did. He actually moved to Sicily for, it kind of differs depending on who you're asking, IMDb versus some other trivia sites, but 3 to 4 months, and learned Sicilian. And he actually speaks only 8 words of English in The Godfather II. He spent 4 months learning Sicilian, and he only, again, very minimal English in the movie at all. And he he was one of 7 actors, along with Sophia Loren, Chris Waltz, Roberto Benigni, Benicio del Toro, Penelope Cruz, and Marion Cotillard, to win an Academy Award for a role primarily in a language other than English, which I thought was interesting, because again, his dialogue was almost totally in Sicilian. Another cool thing about the Oscar that Brando got and didn't show up for, Sashi and Littlefeather came and spoke on his behalf.
Right,
that was a big deal in Hollywood at the time. But De Niro won for playing young Vito Corleone. Brando won for playing old Vito Corleone. They're the only 2 actors to ever win Oscars for the same character, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We talked before about the de-aging thing, and another tie into De Niro and some of these other guys. But
yeah, this is the movie we keep coming back to as far as the de-aging maybe not being the best idea.
Exactly. Yeah, there's to put Brando in that role as the young version of himself, whereas I can see why the thought would go there.
Sure.
But in practice, it's great to see, and we talked about this. It's great to see other actors playing that role, to see what they bring to it, because they're going to bring something a little bit different to it.
Right.
Their own process.
And had the technology existed back then, you wouldn't have gotten this phenomenal performance by Robert De Niro.
Exactly.
So what a loss that would have been. And like we talked to Kathy Garver most recently, our most recent interview, the first half is going to play on August 20th, Friday, August 20th, here coming up. She talks about how you cannot replicate with CGI, with AI, you cannot replicate the nuances of the human voice, the human performance. We talked to Greg Barbanel about the inability of AI to replicate a simple thing like footsteps.
Yeah.
And so hoping that the human element remains in film for many decades to come. But yeah, what a loss that would have been. Not only to film lovers, but to De Niro as far as his career goes. Speaking of which, if you can go on YouTube and you can view De Niro's audition for The Godfather, and it's really something. He took a different approach to Sonny than did James Caan, but again, two different actors, two different approaches, so pretty cool. Again, Kathy Garver, actress, voiceover artist, author, a woman of many hats, very accomplished, been acting for, 6 decades now. And she joined us. We just chatted with her last night, and we're excited to release the first half of our interview on Friday, August 20th. Come out on August 21st for E.T., the Extraterrestrial, Steven Spielberg.
At the historic Roxy Theater in Bremerton.
Exactly right. The historic Roxy will be down there, and we'll be opening things up at about 6:30. Another fantastic, educational, entertaining introduction by our friend Jeremy Arnold. Hope you guys can make it out. And come down Sunday, I guess I'd make that Sunday the 22nd, to the Bay Street Bistro for a Godfather-themed Sunday supper and enjoy one of the Godfather cocktails.
Right.
The ingredients are all linked in our show notes.
We don't know which one they're going to feature.
Don't know yet.
But if they feature any of them, they're fairly simple, but sometimes good things come in small packages.
A cocktail even I could handle, right? This guy's the master, I am the apprentice. 2 ingredients, ice and a glass, I can handle that. Delicious. Happy birthday to Robert De Niro. Thank you for joining us here at the Bay Street Bistro for In the Mix, and salute.